Welcome to the Porn Reboot podcast, where you get practical tips to gaining control over your porn or sex addiction. We help ambitious men end their out-of-control sexual behavior with pornography, sex, and masturbation so that you can maximize your life, perform at your potential, and remain in control in the driver's seat, which is where you have to be in order to gain or maintain the success you want in life. I'm your host, J.K. Emezi, certified sex and porn addiction recovery coach. Welcome to the episode. Hey, brother. The next few episodes are going to have a slight drop in quality. And this is because I'll be talking about your dating reboot, and some of the most passionate material I put out on the dating reboot are actually on our YouTube channel. I don't want to inconvenience you by making you go to YouTube, and I know some of you are not fans of YouTube or have boundaries with it. So what I've done is I've had our editor, Josh, pull the audio from the YouTube videos and clean it up to the best of his ability. Two of the videos are interviews with my girlfriend, my partner of now 16 and a half years, which I think you guys would find quite helpful because, well, it talks about what a rebooted relationship looks like when you have spent years acting out sexually and being addicted to sex and pornography. However, we shot this video during consecutive walks on the beach, so there's going to be a little bit of wind. The others were shot in my car at a time when I was very, very passionate and had just gotten off some very important dating reboot calls. So I hope you'll forgive me for the slight drop in quality, but I do hope that you will enjoy the next 4 or 5 episodes. Thank you. Guys, what's up? Hello from the beach. Today, I'm going to be sharing number 5, the 5th thing that I learned in 14 years of being in a relationship as a rebooted man. That's a man who's in control of his formerly out of control sexual behavior. And I was actually just having this conversation with my girl, who's right here, on a morning walk on the beach. And it's about handling conflict. And the lesson learned, again, lesson means that doesn't mean like, 14 years in a relationship and, this is what I've maintained. No, it means that mistakes were made. That's why it's a lesson, just a reminder. But the lesson is be very careful during conflict, because when you open your mouth and you say something, you cannot take it back. And in our relationship, in the early days, I was pretty hot-headed, had more of a tendency to yell, to communicate things. A lot of stuff I believe I learned from just watching my father. And that was the way I, unfortunately, communicated in a relationship. So we've made progress since then. But I do believe a lot of people ruin their relationships because they just open their mouth and say things, both men and women. You just can't take it back. So we were just talking about how she started processing something. You want to tell him, dear? It's like me being a guy who yells, who used to yell. Excuse me, I still yell on camera. She hears me yelling, but mostly yelling at clients these days. But like, how have you dealt with it, like over the years, communicating?
Well, I grew up with an alpha male father, so I was kind of used to that. But sometimes it would be like, if you were to yell and you'd be like father yelling at his child, because that's what I grew up with. Just over the years, I need to sit on things and think on them before I say them. And then sometimes that would take days. So we've cut the time down thanks to something I just decided to try, which was writing down what I want to say. Like, this is a good point, or this is my question. I'm going to ask how he feels about this. So I'll write everything down, whether it's pages or one page. And then I remember the first time I brought it to him, I took it to him, I said, read it, don't say anything, read the book, and then say what you think. And that actually was kind of a game changer for our relationship, because first off, it helped me because I got to say every point I could ever think of. And then for him, he could, each point wasn't an argument. And I wouldn't lose my points and he'd hear all of my points, and then we'd communicate from there.
Yeah. It really was. Sometimes when you're arguing with someone and you're having these long back and forths with your partner till late at night, sometimes you just lose the entire point of the conversation because it's drama.
And drama is just each person is seeking some form of emotional validation. There's a feeling that they have that they want the other person to get, but the other person is so invested in getting their own feelings met. And so it's just not productive. But I remember when she did that, I think it was like on the yellow pad paper.
Yes.
That's what we used when we sold books door to door. By the way, she did sell books with me for 7 summers. And I remember reading it. I probably still have it somewhere. Thankfully, she hasn't had to do that as many times over the years. But each time I come across them and I read them, I always come back to her and I'm just like, what? Like, it's so good because each time it is so shocking because it's so clear. I remember, I was like, okay, like, man, we had this particular issue. There's even one in particular where we had, and it was more of a body image thing, and I've talked about this before. This is a good example of opening your mouth and saying things. And I was on a flight somewhere, I was recruiting, and I'd said something. I won't go too much into the details, but it ended up being a trigger for her because she was going through a tough time. But I was not thinking. Opened my mouth and said something, and it led to a whole series of events. And maybe we'll talk about it on another video. But the point I want to make here is that I did the same thing. I wrote out a letter a while later talking about how I felt when it came to sexual attraction and her physique, just explaining where it came from. This goes back to my video the other day of asking for the things you want. If you don't tell your partner what you want or how you feel, it's not going to help the relationship. If you're more invested in not hurting their feelings, it's just going to be hard. So at one point, I had an issue with halitosis, which is more or less bad breath. And I mean, I'm sure it took her a minute, but eventually she just told me what the deal was. No, did it take you a minute, or did you straight up tell me that, dude, your breath has been sucking?
Maybe a few days because it wasn't something I'm used to. I'm used to the way his breath normally smells. So if my breath stink, I would want someone to tell me.
Yeah. So she basically told me, and I was able to start going about fixing that. But again, in her case, she took this letter, this is the crazy part, and then she made a vision board of how she, what her fitness goals were and the workout she wanted to do. But here's the crazy part. She put it up in her family home where she lives, her dad, which is living with her dad and her brothers, in the bathroom. So anybody in her family could go there and see it. And that's my letter.
That's really bad handwriting, to be fair.
But people are in the bathroom. They got time to decipher it. They got time to decipher the right. And they're like, wow, what a douchebag.
It wasn't the whole letter. It was just one bit that I used as a motivator, as a matter of fact.
It's a bit where I said that I like banging sexy girls. You need to get your body
word
fit.
For word.
And it's there in the bathroom. It's still in the bathroom, not word for word, but it's there in the bathroom. Anyway, okay, so to end the video, one of the conversations that we had been having earlier was this thing about not going to bed angry. And I don't know, maybe it's cliche, but that is something that we try and we've tried not to do because, I mean, there are a few things as bad as waking up in the morning and then for more days, happily I can say, and thankfully that more days than not, I wake up and I'm happy to see her next to me in bed and give her a kiss every morning. That's a requirement.
It is my requirement.
Yeah, and that's for 14 years. And if I miss giving her a kiss in the morning, it's going to be a problem. But having conditioned ourselves to wake up in that way with that sort of positivity, it sucks when you wake up in the morning and all you remember is the negativity of the day. And you guys already know what I say about your morning routine and starting off in a positive way. You want to add anything to that or go into bed?
Yeah, not everyone has time to argue until they're no longer angry. So that could be, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., whatever, different situations for everybody. You've got lives in the morning, work, kids go to school, all that stuff. For us, it's just argue to the point where it makes sense. If the argument stops making sense or it gets repetitive, like end it there, go to sleep, and then, the saying, think, sleep on it. Well, sleep on it, go to sleep, wake up, and when you guys are ready to revisit, whether it's immediately in the morning or after someone gets home from work or an afternoon phone call, whatever, deal with it then, because usually by then the emotions have calmed down, you've slept, you're sane again. It's a lot easier to deal with, and you can see how maybe silly it seems in perspective.
So to clarify, this isn't something that happens often. I think that's very important to say. But I think it's one of the things I wanted to do by bringing her on video is to kind of show you guys who, I don't know what your relationship is like, but none of these things are smooth. Living with another person, being with another person, and there's no point of perfection. It's a constant practice to get things better. And even after we have situations like this, a few days later, I'll notice that we'll bring it up again in a way that because we just don't want to keep going through it, right? So at certain moments throughout the next couple of days, she'll bring up something, I'll bring up something like, yeah, I was thinking about the conversation we had. And this is not in a negative way. This is not to start drama. This is always I feel that we could do this better. It's always to add to it. It's never drama. And I think that's very important in your relationship too. And that's how you avoid going back to things. Sometimes it'll be years before we have an argument about something that we'd already resolved. And honestly, 9 out of 10 times it's my fault because I forgot. So guys, just in summary, before you open your mouth to say something in a relationship, really think about it. Processing things with your partner is really important. And putting pen to paper to communicate if you know that you're very hot-headed and emotional is one of the best things you can do.
And I think respect. I mean,
how do you mean?
Like name calling, cursing at each other, that's never never a good look ever. Like you should respect your partner, even if you are mad. Like respect them as a human being. I think there was a saying I said before. I read it. If you treat your friends the way you treat your partner or spouse, you probably have no friends.
If you treat your friends the way you treat your partner or your spouse, you probably have no friends. I don't get it.
Kind of like taking them for granted or not giving them calls back or, knowing they're going to love you regardless, walking away from them, ignoring them, whatever. Those small things, it'll all add up, but making promises and then not keeping them or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know if I agree with that.
Okay. I told you found it in the past. We'll revisit.
The point on name calling, I think, is a very important one. We've never
once
called ourselves names. We've never hit each other ever in 14 years. It's just an absolute no-no. And I just got to say this, guys. If you're in a relationship, you just shouldn't tolerate it. You shouldn't be in a relationship where somebody raises hands on you, whether you're a woman raises her hands on you or hits you, or you hit your woman, or you use any sort of foul language, calling your partner a B, or calling your partner stupid
degrading
or foolish.
Them, destroying their self-esteem for no reason.
Zero tolerance.
No. Men or women, don't tolerate that stuff.
In our case, it's just more or less, if any of that stuff happens,
the ship is dead.
It's done. It's done. So that's really non-negotiable. And I'm going to end it with that by saying that if you can get to 14 years, and again, I'm not putting our relationship out here as any great achievement. It's just something we're doing, right? People may watch this and go whatever. But some people are in relationships out there where you've made it okay for your partner to call you names and say certain things and degrade you and put you down. But you can be in a long-term relationship and you can be happy for the most part without any of that. I just want to let you know that. And it's such a non-negotiable. You literally heard us just say that it's over if any of that stuff happens, name calling, any of that. It's not supposed to be normal. So don't normalize it in your relationship. All right. Actually, didn't expect to put it on the video today. So this video has been all over the place. So we'll just call it, take what you will from it, but it's just about conflict management. Maybe I'll do one more video with her. If you have any questions actually on being specifically for the brothers who are struggling with the out of control behavior and certain emotions on what a relationship like this is like, go ahead and ask it in the comment section below, and we'll probably do one more video. All right. Thank you guys. Bye.
I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Porn Reboot podcast. I'll speak to you later on in the week. If you found this episode helpful, here are 4 ways I can help you with your out of control sexual behavior for free. The first way is to grab a free copy of my book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men at elevatedrecovery.org, or visit the link in the description below this episode. The second way is, if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals and business owners who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot group on Facebook. There's a link to join in the description below this episode. The third way is, if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally or emotionally, you're about to lose your relationship, you want to live up to your potential, be an authentic man, and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving, then click on the link in the description below this episode that says free coaching call. And the fourth way is to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this podcast, so that we can reach more men who are struggling in silence and bring back the lessons we learn from coaching them to freedom.